for Christian McCaffrey owners, my goodness, Groundhog Day again, not going to play in Week 10. The good news that we found out on Thursday was that seemingly his second opinion on his injured shoulder was good enough where there's hope that he could play in Week 11. That's according to the NFL Network. But for Week 10, you're not going to have him. Mike Davis in as Carolina takes on Tampa Bay. How does that situation play out come Sunday?
Not the best matchup, obviously, a ticked-off Tampa Bay D that got run over. I mean, just flat-out run over by New Orleans, as we chronicled last time out. But Davis in their first matchup, that was where he started to make a roll. 8 catches, 74 yards on 8 targets. I would expect, I mean, obviously you'll have more rushing attempts this time out, but that's where he makes his hay in the passing game, where he replaced McCaffrey pretty well. Rushing effort will certainly be there in terms of touches, but you'll see more creativity because we saw that before McCaffrey's 1 week return, right, where Curtis Samuel and a lot more ends around. I'd love to just find the number of ends around in the National Football League. It seems like it's growing, right, because in the Thursday night game, both teams went to it. Here's the tight end around. I mean, I don't think you see that very often. But wide receivers getting more active in the run game, if nothing else, just to mix things up. Hey, Greg Roman, you could put a couple of those in, and maybe Lamar Jackson won't be telling everybody how predictable you are. Sorry. Getting a little salty there. But Mike Davis certainly reinstalls as a mid RB2, I think, just based on volume and opportunity.
You know, when you're in – we had junior high. We didn't have a middle school. We had junior high when I was growing up. It was 7 to 9,
okay.
7th grade to 9th grade. And you know how there's always like one kid that just it has a growth spurt, is like 6'2" in like 9th grade. You ever have like where the just
it wasn't me, but yeah, I saw it. Sure,
it wasn't. It sure as heck wasn't me either. But we had one on our team, and when you mentioned the end around, it reminded me of freshman football. When we had the guy, we put him at tackle, Mike. So he's 6'2", and he's obviously a guy you want to run behind. But it's also 9th grade, and you have to think that the other team has basically got a team that's very similar in build to ours. So who's going to be able to tackle the 6'2" guy, right? So we made up a play called tackle reverse, where the tackle, yes, the guy at the end of the line, it was supposed to be your tackle, would run a reverse, and we would hand him the football just for the simple fact of nobody would be able to tackle him because he was so big, which then made me think, why don't we just put him at running back and give him the ball the whole time? But we did have a tackle reverse. Maybe we could see that in the National Football League at some point.
I dig that, right? We got enough big men touchdown, and we celebrate him here. Right, I certainly celebrate every time I see a defensive end check in, even back when Belichick used to do it, right? Hey, here's even Mike Vrabel, right? Here's your linebacker suddenly showing up, or all the guys that scored touchdowns through the years, much to the chagrin of fantasy owners in the jumbled New England backfields. But whenever there's a tackle eligible and they put their big mitts and try to catch a football, come on, it's a cause for celebration for everyone. But I want to know, was that guy any good? Right?
Yes.
Because I was waiting. Yeah, I was waiting for the end of the story to be. Yeah, then we gave him the ball and he got trucked because he was scared, despite being so large.
No, he was one of the big kids, and by the way, not a fat kid.
No, right.
So he just had a growth spurt that he was 6'2", and there's no way you could bring him down. And this is a note to all middle school football coaches. If anybody on your team is starting to grow a beard, get him the football. That's the rule of thumb if you're coaching middle school football. Because I'll tell you what, we didn't win a game when I played in high school, but we won freshman football games, and I think it's because we got it to our big guy. I'm leaving his name out of the podcast just because I don't want anybody to. He has nothing to be embarrassed about. He was a really, really athletic kid, but we ran a tackle reverse. All right, so Christian McCaffrey's out. Mike Davis is in. There are some running backs that are coming back. Nick Chubb looks to be back for Cleveland as they take on the Houston Texans. Now maybe Kareem Hunt takes a hit, but maybe the weather in Cleveland's going to benefit both. How do you see Nick Chubb's return affecting the Browns going forward?
As we'll chronicle in my top fives for the week, I got him right back into the number 3 spot.
Wow.
Kareem Hunt's still going to be a top 15. I think you'll still see him catch the ball out of the backfield a bunch. But you look at Houston, third most fantasy points allowed to running backs. We know they don't want Baker Mayfield winging the ball around 35 times a game. They just don't, no matter what the opponent is. So I expect a heavy dose of Chubb. If you're going to activate him, then you're ready to run him, right? It's like when we were asked, and I know I was, and I'm sure you were a bunch last week, Dan, when McCaffrey was coming back. It's like, well, what do I do? I'm like, you waited 7 weeks for this guy, right? He's in your lineup.
Yes.
Unfortunately, now you have no idea when he's coming back or whether they put him in mothballs if they go out and get trucked by Tampa Bay this week, right? Based on where they're at and what the division shakes out and everything else. But with Nick Chubb, he's back. That is their identity, is running the football. And as good as Kareem Hunt is, they're better as a tandem. I mean, it's Batman and Robin. And if I were on air with Smith right now, the Garcetti na would be playing.
Unfortunately, you're with me.
Well, you can do that, Dan. You can do the
no, Batman.
Nicely done.
Miles Sanders is back, man, for the Philadelphia Eagles in that return. They've got the Giants coming up. I really like this boost. I have Miles Sanders on my squad with the buddies in our 20-plus year league, so I'm excited for him to be back because I think he's basically what the Eagles have. There's been a little bit of stuff with, Travis Fulgham having his opportunity, but Miles Sanders makes the Eagles a different team, and he looks to be back. He's been limited in practice, but we expect him to play in Week 10.
Expected to go, and we appreciate the efforts of Boston Scott. I will give him a cake and say congratulations on a job done.
Peter.
Yeah, exactly. But Miles Sanders gets right back into my top 5, right? I've got him at the 5 spot against New York, 10th most fantasy points allowed. Sanders dynamic as a runner and receiver. And with the division wide open, now's the time, right? Coming out of a bye week, everybody regroups. Sanders comes back. Here's your time to push towards those 6 wins to get you into the playoff out of the NFC East.
That division just doesn't get pretty.